It was alleged that the open border policies of the last administration has led to an exploitation of our nation's trucking licensing system. So today, I'm here to tell you after our audit that those reports, they're all true. Non-citizens will not be eligible for a CDL unless they meet a much stricter set of rules. Second, all states must immediately pause the issuance of non-domiciled CDLs.
There was a fleet owner that stated that 20 of his drivers have a U4U, and his 20 Ukrainian drivers will not be able to renew.
Well, friends, it's time to go back home. Probably almost every single immigrant is having these profound thoughts today.
What's going on, good and wonderful people? It's Shady here, back with another banger today. So there have been sweeping changes in the trucking industry over the past couple weeks. Last week we touched on the fact that 200,000 truck drivers essentially had their lives upended when Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy imposed very strict restrictions on non-domiciled CDLs. And it seems like we're already seeing the after effects of this policy, because in the state of Oklahoma, early last week, there was a immigration sting operation / immigration raid, which basically resulted in 120 truck drivers being apprehended.
Put your hands on this threat, so we're going to do everything that we can to stop it.
Commissioner Tim Tipton is talking about Operation Guardian and the latest efforts the state says ended with 120 undocumented people arrested, 90 commercial truck drivers and 30 others from routine traffic stops. Tipton blames in part the lax rules at other states to get CDLs or fake CDLs for this to even be possible. 44 came from California, 14 from New York, 12 from Pennsylvania, and 11 from Illinois.
But before all this happened, Mr. Gela, Chicagoland CEO, pretty much saw the writing on the wall. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Mr. Gela, I've made quite a few videos about him for the past 3 or 4 months or so. But for months, he's been complaining about the consequences of ending the U4U program, which is basically a program that he has benefited from as a Chicagoland CEO. However, this particular video that I want to react to is special. Before Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced that 200,000 foreign truck drivers that have a non-domiciled CDL will essentially face restrictions on getting their CDLs renewed, Mr. Gela released this video. Now, once again, all of his videos are in Russian, so what I do is translate his videos from Russian to English using an AI app called HeyGen AI. You guys can find it in the App Store right here. That's what it looks like. But yes, this video roughly translates to, is it time to leave America? Now, I don't know if he already left America or not, because it's been about 2 weeks and he pretty much loads frequently on his channel, so I hope he's still in the country. I don't think he left. He's probably just taking a break from YouTube. But before I begin reacting to him, I just want to say this. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please do not go on Mr. Gela's channel and leave mean-spirited, negative, discouraging, and disparaging comments. Again, educational and entertainment purposes only. Now, I know that Mr. Gela is frustrated. He's going through a lot. His company may be on the brink of collapse. Things are looking pretty bleak. And Mr. Gela himself came to America back in 2015, 2016, where he obtained his CDL through a Russian-speaking CDL school out of the state of Florida. Now, I'm not sure how this is a thing, considering that you absolutely have to take your CDL road test in English. So yeah, but apparently it is a thing, and foreign truck drivers can actually go to these trucking schools and get their CDLs for a discounted price compared to their American counterparts. Average trucking school tuition, private trucking school tuition, is about $3,000 to $7,000. So I say all this to say that it's pretty much a blessing if you're an immigrant that comes here legally the right way and get your proper paperwork in order. You can actually benefit financially and, obtain a CDL, learn a skilled trade, and reap the benefits. And for the longest, Mr. Gela felt the same exact way.
Well, friends, it's time to go back home. Probably almost every single immigrant is having these profound thoughts today, right now. And truly, when we were making the significant move to America, I distinctly remember it myself. It was back in 2016. We were genuinely going there for some much needed peace of mind, for a strong sense of confidence in the future, for what we vividly saw constantly portrayed on television, eagerly expecting to find true freedom and abundant opportunities awaiting us. And the profound understanding that absolutely everything in this life truly depends on us, that there absolutely won't be any undue pressure from the government, no oppressive pressure whatsoever from regulatory authorities, and any kind of honest, diligent work, whether it's digging deep trenches, working tirelessly on large construction sites. I personally worked on towering structures, harvesting abundant crops, or skillfully driving a heavy truck. Any and all work is genuinely valued and deeply respected, both by the entire country and by all other people. Any and every kind of work without exception.
However, Mr. Gela thinks that all this is just over and done with. Now, mind you, he made this video just before Secretary Sean Duffy said that, you know, if you're a foreign truck driver, if you want to get a non-domiciled CDL, you face all these restrictions.
No one has personally come to me. No ICE agent has come and said, let me take you away. My rights and freedoms have not been restricted in any way. But for the first 9 years in America, I felt that they weren't being restricted. In the past 6 months, I feel deep inside at my core that they are being restricted. Maybe this is being done intentionally, maybe a wave is being deliberately stirred up so that people are easier to control. It's always easier to control and manipulate people who are scared. Nevertheless, we already know of many cases where truck drivers are stopped at weigh stations and people are stopped on the street. They are taken right from their jobs and brought to detention centers. Of course, this wasn't happening 6 months ago. This has only started recently. And the most upsetting, the most unpleasant thing is that it's precisely the people who are working who are being taken. A truck driver is driving, all his documents are in order, he has a work permit, he has a valid CDL, everything is fine, he has the right to drive a truck, earn money, and spend it within the country. And yet he is stopped and put in a detention center. In other words, the situation and the morals of this country have changed to the point where people who work and pay taxes today are no longer welcome here.
Now, he is right when he says that there are truck drivers that are getting pulled over at weigh stations for immigration checks, and this was pretty much amplified as a result of that incident in Florida with Harjinder Singh. He did the illegal U-turn and 3 people lost their lives. And as a result, the state of Florida and other states have ICE agents at the weigh stations to conduct immigration checks. And there have been people that have been pulled over, they've been inspected, and they've been detained. However, I do think there needs to be nuance with this because he, in my opinion, conflates illegal immigration with legal immigration. Are these people that are getting detained, do they have all the proper paperwork? Is all the proper paperwork up to date? Are there any discrepancies? Are these people proficient in English? Because that's an out-of-service violation if they're not. And lastly, he also touches on the fact that these hardworking immigrants pay taxes just like everybody else. And I think it's pretty rich that he's saying that as a Chicagoland CEO, because allegedly, Conspiracy Theory Channel, all of these companies in Chicago do tax evasion, in my opinion, conspiracy theory. Let me know what you guys think. Take a look at this.
Biggest scams in the trucking industry right now that is wreaking havoc on lives of truck drivers is the 1099 misclassification tax fraud tactic that employers are using to try to subvert having to pay their portion of the 15.3% self-employment tax. And what I'm talking about is if you're genuinely self-employed, there's a 15.3% self-employment tax that you have to pay. Nobody else pays that. That burden is on you. But if you're a W-2 employee, that same tax is still owed, but it's split between your employer and between you. It's 15.3%. The employer pays half, you pay half. But guess what? If they misclassify you as a self-employed individual or an independent contractor in the eyes of the IRS, that automatically alleviates the employer from their burden, their half of that 15.3%, and it shifts all of that 15.3% on you. And if you're a company driver, you're driving their truck, you do not have your own formal business form. They're telling you where you can go, when you can go home, what kind of home time you have to adhere to. Everything about it is a company driving position, except for the fact that you're classified as a 1099 worker. You need to turn that company into the IRS, and they can get in trouble for that. Now,
in fact, the very first video I made about Mr. Gela, he said it himself. He has a preference for foreign truck drivers over American truck drivers because of the tax situation.
Sure that all companies will be downsizing, all companies will be shrinking and getting smaller. There's nothing you can do about it. The only thing we can do is start attracting Americans, but Americans need W-2, they need a pension, they need certain conditions that in most cases our work system can't provide for them. Can we switch to W-2 or can we create such conditions for them? I don't know, I haven't looked into it. That's a topic for another video, not this one.
So another tenfold hat conspiracy theory that I have is that a lot of these chameleon carriers, these shady carriers that employ foreign truck drivers and sponsor their work visas, I think they have this shady leasing program in which you know the truck drivers, they're responsible for everything, and they mask it as just pay us back for sponsoring your company sponsored work visa. Sounds like labor trafficking. Again, tenfold hat conspiracy theory. My camera's about to die, so let me hook it up to the charger. One sec.
A person who pays taxes, thanks to these taxes, things like ICE, as well as the police, firefighters, and everything else exist. And the state also lives off taxes. So how beneficial is this for the country, for the economy? Well, one person, of course, isn't a big blow to the economy, right? But when we're talking about 100,000 people, what kind of blow to the economy would that be?
All right, guys, I'm back. So, yes, in this clip that you just saw on your screen, he says that 100,000 truck drivers are going to be affected. Let's just say hypothetically, because, he made it before, the Sean Duffy announcement. He said, what kind of effect would that have on the trucking industry? I think it's interesting that he said such a thing, considering that Transportation Sean Duffy himself said that despite there being 200,000 truck drivers affected, the effect on the trucking industry, despite there being a trucking shortage, shouldn't be that big at all. So this blows a hole in the narrative that there is a trucking shortage. Sounds like that there is a trucking surplus. And even you, sir, Mr. Gela, said it yourself in a previous video. There is not a shortage of American truck drivers. There is a surplus of American truck drivers, but there's a shortage of truck drivers in the U4U program.
There is an enormous shortage of long-haul truck drivers, but don't confuse this with a shortage of truck drivers in America. In America, there are more than enough truck drivers. In fact, according to statistics, there's actually an oversupply of more than 10%. No, the shortage is among drivers in Russian-speaking, post-Soviet, Eastern European trucking companies.
Now, he touches on that U4U program suspension, and I think it's interesting because Alex Mai from the Mother Trucker news channel actually talked about this himself in an episode earlier this week. A Ukrainian CEO emailed him and asked him what should he do because 20 of his truck drivers are going to be affected by the suspension of said program, and he wants to know if there's even a pathway towards staying here, remaining here legally. So let's take a look at that.
A trucking company with 60 trucks. I have 20 Ukrainian drivers who came to the USA on the U4U program. They all have a Class A CDL and are excellent drivers with prior OTR experience in Europe. Most will not have their license renewed. What can they do? They have families to support and will soon be unable to drive. Is there a legal pathway for them to stay? Replacing 20 drivers is nearly impossible. Please help these legally admitted drivers who fled their country due to war. So let me explain this right here. What is U4U? That's Uniting for Ukraine. And basically, it's actually a temporary humanitarian parole program for Ukrainians fleeing war. So this allows entry and work authorization in the U.S. for up to 2 years. So many drivers under U4U got CDLs using their EADs or parole status. The interesting thing is the U4U program is not actually a permanent immigration status and not a green card path by itself. But as of now, yeah, you are correct. Their U4U status is being suspended and will not be renewed. And also that program was for something temporary as
now,
well.
basically, Alex says that this CEO, just like Mr. Gela, is just sadly out of luck. There is no path. Now, I did look at the DHS website. There is a path for some U4U refugees. And, it says here that U4U refugees will lose their status, will not lose their status immediately. Ukrainians can seek temporary protective status or TPS, which is extended until October of 2026. But again, this is also temporary, and this is just something that is escaping from Mr. Gela and from that other Ukrainian CEO.
But those who are already here received work permits, and those permits have expired while the war still isn't over. So it turns out you wanted to help us, you invited us here, you told us, guys, we won't give you money, but go ahead and work, earn your living. All right, that works for us. We're ready to earn an honest living just like everyone else. For ourselves and, so to speak, for society as well. Okay, we're working. And when the war is over, then we'll go back to Ukraine. Yes, fine, we'll go back to Ukraine. The war isn't over, even though they promised it would be in 24 hours. But the work permit has expired.
I do have empathy. I do have sympathy, empathy for these people. And unfortunately, they may be out of luck once these programs expire and there's really no path for them to stay here. Situations like this make me thankful that, I live here in the US. And to be honest with you, I really wouldn't want to live in a Western country. And I'm sorry, Mr. Gela, and I'm sorry to all the people out there that have had their statuses, their temporary protective statuses, their U4U program statuses suspended. My heart really does go out to you. Your country is a war zone, and I wouldn't want to be there either. I wouldn't want to be in a country that's in a war zone. Now, this is the latest and greatest video from Mr. Gela. Like I said, I'm interested in knowing how he feels about the recent restrictions on foreign truck drivers and non-domiciled CDL holders. All right, guys, so Mr. Gela actually did respond to the recent changes implemented by the FMCSA. What I'm going to do is actually let these video clips play and let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, I have a brief response. It's just brief. I don't really have much to say right now for time's sake. I have to get this video out to you guys as soon as possible. And I'm sorry if you guys hear my husband in the background. The Carolina Panthers are playing right now. But yeah, let's just take a look at what he has to say.
The new law about getting a CDL only for citizens and green card holders, plus ICE on the roads. It's unfair, scary, and honestly, I'd say it's just messed up. Let's set aside all emotions and grievances and look at what we actually have left, just the facts. First, the law that was passed on September 29th was written in a single day just to make it before the government shutdown on October 1st. It has a huge number of flaws and contradictions. It will be supplemented and edited. In the law, either by accident or on purpose, the terms legal and illegal immigrant were mixed up. Truck drivers who are in America legally, through the U4U program, TPS, parole, reparole, those who came on a visa, who are legally present in the US and have applied for political asylum and are waiting for that asylum, these are legal immigrants. They haven't broken any laws, and they should be able to obtain and renew their CDL and stay on the road. In the next few weeks, we expect this law to be corrected. The second problem is the IC agents, like vampires, who appear out of nowhere and take the best of us. According to statistics, 99% of detentions happen at border checkpoints, Laredo, Texas, El Paso, Texas. The remaining 1% of detentions happen throughout the rest of America, but 9 out of 10 of those are in Texas and Oklahoma. If you avoid the southern states, you're safe. But how safe can a truck driver really be behind the wheel? After all, the chances of getting into an accident are much higher than ending up in a detention center. Ending up in a detention center isn't the end of the world. A driver can be released from there, and before the court date, he can easily get back on the road. That's exactly what we did in our company with one of our drivers, for example. ICE agents, in order not to waste time checking every driver's documents, try to visually determine whether someone is legal or, as they call it, an illegal. So if you're clean-shaven, washed, have a fresh haircut, are dressed neatly, and drive without drawing attention or breaking traffic laws, you'll stay safe. The actual number of Russian-speaking truck drivers who have been detained is less than 1% among Russian-speaking truckers, and among all truck drivers in America, it's 1/10,000%. Statistically, you're more likely to win the lottery than end up in a detention center. But social media stirs things up and raises the tension within the community so much that it feels like we're all doomed. Immigrants in America aren't just from the former Soviet Union. And in fact, the authorities are targeting people from India, Pakistan, and South America even more. If you have the chance to stay home for 2 or 3 weeks, do it. If you need the money, stay on the road. A negative mindset will give you a heart attack much faster than any politician's games. And Trump isn't as dumb as the people around him. He'll do everything he can to keep 200,000 experienced drivers on the road. A new law, friends, here's a bit more statistics and some food for thought. There are 3.5 million truck drivers in America. 1.5 million of them are local drivers who don't leave their state, or maybe just go to a neighboring state. This niche is filled by American citizens. They want to be home every evening and every weekend. The remaining 2 million are OTR drivers, over the road, who travel all across the country. 700,000 of them don't have a green card or citizenship, which makes up 35% of OTR drivers. Out of those 700,000, 150,000 are Indian drivers. There are no more than 20,000 Russian-speaking truckers on American roads. These 700,000 drivers transport 50% of long-haul freight. On September 29th, the FMCSA announced that 300,000 drivers could lose their CDL. With some simple math, we can figure out that this is 20% of the freight transported across the entire country. This freight will no longer be transported by these drivers. For a number of reasons, 75% of all freight in America is transported by trucks, and only 25% is handled by rail and air. So what will happen to this freight? Either the American government will officially acknowledge that the country's trade turnover is dropping by more than 20%, which means the economy is also shrinking and declining by more than 20%. Or the FMCSA will have to start actively building portals and huge slingshots to launch freight into the air from Texas, Oklahoma, and then send it by air to other states, where people will have to catch it with their hands, nets, teeth, or by any other means. Personally, I get the impression that someone is being less than honest, and that such a major economic downturn is not actually planned. We've simply become victims of yet another political game, the result of which will be that in a month or two, it will be announced that all the states have successfully passed the audit. The guilty have been punished, and a huge number of illegal immigrants have had their CDLs revoked. And as we know from George Orwell's novel 1984, statistics are a relative thing. American truckers who are voters are happy. They meet at truck stops, congratulate each other on the victory, hug, shake hands, get back in their trucks, earn $900 a week by driving 1,500 miles in that week, and sincerely believe that they are the ones making America great and moving the economy forward.
All right, yes, guys, you saw that, you heard that. Obviously, he has a bias against this administration. A lot of the stuff that he says is misinformation, it's misleading, it can easily be fact checked. But the biggest thing that he says is that, if 200,000, 300,000 truck drivers are just removed and lose their licenses overnight, then that's going to have an immediate economic impact. The economy is just going to crash and burn. And even during COVID, when the economy was just crashing and burning, trucking was actually booming. There was actually a shortage of truck drivers, and freight was going for $4 or $5 a mile. So I don't think that the impact of, even if it is true, if all these truck drivers losing their license is going to be as substantial as Mr. Gela indicates. In fact, he said it before, there is actually a surplus of American truck drivers. He is really just concerned about the Ukrainian truck drivers, the truck drivers that are in the U4U program. He's really just, coping with the fact that his company is going to collapse. But that's pretty much what I have to say about that. In addition, he also says in the beginning that the legislation, the policy proposals by Secretary Sean Duffy, he's saying that it confuses legal and illegal immigrants and affects asylum applicants. That's not true. The rule is explicit about requiring lawful immigration status and verification if you have a non-domiciled CDL. It doesn't conflate legal immigration with illegal immigration. So if these people that you speak of, these U4U recipients, refugees that you care a whole ton about, that keep your company in business, if they have the proper documentation, if they're here legally, if they're, I guess their paperwork hasn't expired, there's no discrepancies, then they shouldn't have anything to worry about, at least for now. But we know that the program is suspended, and pretty much the only pathway for them to stay here right now is to apply for temporary protective status if they can get it. But yes, to say that, this legislation or policy, I don't know, it's not legislation because it's not a law, but this rule change, to say that, it's confusing legal and illegal, is just simply not the case at all. It's not true. But there are many other claims that he makes that can easily be fact checked. Like I said, for time's sake, I'm not going to go in depth, but like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, I do want to switch gears to this TikToker, trucker that pretty much feels the opposite of Mr. Gela. While he feels that, this administration is coming after immigrants regardless of their status, she feels the opposite. She's saying that, hey, what about the American truck drivers? What about the hardworking American truck drivers? They're suffering too. They can't get back on their feet. They are suffering for low rates. What about them? So let's take a look at that.
Not being able to renew their CDL because these states, they're under investigation. They're being audited. They've handed out so many fraudulent CDL to the immigrant in the past that now they're under investigation. And all I hear is the poor immigrant truck driver. That's how he provides for his family. They don't know what they're going to do. Trucking is his only source of income. What about the American truck driver? What about the poor American truck driver? Huh? The immigrant, it's so bad that they're talking about they might even self-deport. Well, get to deporting then. Huh? You can't work nowhere else but trucking. You can't try to go to McDonald's, Wendy's, a sawmill, a Walmart. You got to be in trucking. So if it's not trucking, you're going to deport. Well, deport because the poor American truck driver. Now we are overpopulated in trucking. Too many truck drivers, not enough freight to go around, and it is like a third world country at the truck-em-up stops nowadays. The Americans are the minority. So it is supposed to be a short-term CDL. Short term, not a long time. Short term. It's like when you get your motorcycle permit, you don't ever want to get your motorcycle license, so you just keep renewing the permit. That's not how you do it in America. It's a short term CDL. You're lucky you got it. Now go on to something else.
Well, guys, let me know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Obviously, she's very passionate in what she says. I do feel like she's exaggerating in a lot of cases, but yeah, I understand where she's coming from when she says that there are struggling truck drivers out there. They need to get back on their feet, but there's just certain circumstances that make that damn near impossible. But yeah, if you are here and your status expires, I hate to break it to you, but the law is the law. But yeah, you know what? What said you? How do you feel about what she said? How do you feel about what Mr. Gela is saying? Do you think that this law is justified? Do you think they should go back despite being in a war zone? Do you think that, these people who are granted temporary protective status, should, the rules be broken, extended, bended for them to remain here? Do you think that this is a step in the right direction for American truck drivers? Let me know your comments down below. You guys are the best audience on the internet. If you enjoy content like this, hit the like button, comment, rate, share, and subscribe. I am Taja Ellison, and I'll see you next time.